Hi, welcome to the channel folks. I'm Andy, ElectricGeek, and in this video we're going to be looking at all the 4Ks that I picked up over the last 5 or 6 weeks or so. I've been out for a bit, I haven't actually been filming, I had to take a step back, just mental health and stuff, but I'm kind of feeling better now, so I thought I'd fire together this video. But yeah, 4K is the way, as the thumbnail suggests, though I have slipped in 3 Blu-rays that I've picked up because at the end of the day, some things aren't on 4K, and I just thought I'd fire them in. Good movies too. So I've got 10 titles altogether, 7 4Ks and 3 Blu-rays, but as I say, I'll do the 4Ks first, and first up is Training Day on 4K. So I'm not going to speak too long about this because I have done a dedicated video. There should be a little link popping up now to take you there if you want to jump into that one. But I kind of cover the steelbook obviously, and I go into depth with the video and audio quality and a bit about the movie. But yeah, really pleased to add this to the collection. This was a pre-order, it cost me $24.99 and I got it from Zavi. But yeah, cracking film, cracking transfer, check out the video. Sorry about the croaky, husky voice folks, I'm just kind of getting over a bit of the cold here. But yeah, next up is one of Neil Blomkamp's films, and I think it's one of the best sci-fi films of the last 20 years, easy. I'd maybe even put it in my top 5, and that is his debut feature, District 9. This is a belter of a film. Now, as you can see, I haven't actually taken it out the wrapper, but it was one of the first Blu-rays I collected back in the day when I first was collecting Blu-ray, and I had it for years, and I didn't want to buy the Blu-ray again because I just feel like I was like regaining what I already had, which seemed kind of silly. So I was holding off to get this at the right price. Now how I came about this was because for a Secret Santa at my work, someone actually got me a 4K Blu-ray, shock horror, wonder why. But it was one I already had. It was the Indiana Jones Kingdom of the Crystal Skull 4K Steelbook, and it was the nice one, you know, with the new artwork on it, or the old artwork I should say, not the white kind of god-awful ones I've got. So I was tempted to keep it, but it just didn't make any sense. So kindly, my colleague returned it for me and gave me 20 quid credit just to kind of go mental with. So I got this and Elysium, which we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, really looking forward to watching this. You can see cellophane's still on it, so saving it for a good occasion. But this is cracking. If you've not seen this yet, it's definitely his finest film. It went on a bit of a downward trajectory thereafter, but the films that followed are also really good. But yeah, this is so good. Sharp Koto plays the kind of lead antagonist turned protagonist, shall we say. Sorry to interrupt folks, but if you're also wondering who the hell Sharp Koto is, that's the South African actor, of course, Sharpto Copley, who played the lead in District 9. However, old Andy wasn't able to correct himself and continues to refer to the actor by that ridiculous name throughout, so enjoy. Yes, shall we say, not to give the plot away, but ultimately it's set in Johannesburg, and this big ship that you can see has just appeared out of nowhere, and naturally the authorities are wondering what the hell's going on globally. Quite unusual because normally in these films it's always America, isn't it? Or UK. Really, is it set in South Africa, but that's obviously because Blomkamp's the director, and they don't know how to treat it. They think, obviously, initially they think it's hostile and whatnot. They eventually, after months and months, get inside, and it's been an evacuation ship basically, and there's all these aliens that are kind of like prawn-like. That's what they're called, prawns, the kind of derogatory term that the humans give for them, and they're scared basically, and they've been hiding it when it came out. They didn't know how they'd be received in this kind of new world, so they end up getting segregated, and they have like shanty town community that the government kind of forced them into, and they're treated as second-class citizens. And it's very much a social commentary on apartheid and racism in general in South Africa. It's very much on the nose, but it's done so well. It really keeps you on the edge of your seat. It's well acted, the effects are fantastic, and from my memory the Blu-ray looked and sounded amazing, so I can't wait to watch it in 4K with the Dolby Atmos. So gushing about that one a bit, but that's because I've got a lot of time for District 9 and I might cover it in a future video. So as I mentioned, with the 20 quid that my colleague kindly refunded me, I managed to get these. I think I got them on eBay or Amazon, I can't remember, but it was a 2 for 20 anyway, just after Christmas. So I got the Blomkamp double bill in District 9 and Elysium. Elysium was the the second film that he released. This was his kind of sci-fi follow-up, and it's kind of like set in the same world. It's not directly referenced, but it kind of feels that way. Again, we find ourselves in South Africa. This time, as you can just see in the cover there, the kind of elitist citizens, if you like, the ones with all the money, have moved on off of Earth, which is obviously suffering due to climate change and all the rest of it. I can't really remember the reasons for it now, it's been a while since I watched it, but yeah, it's dystopian, so the world's come to an end type thing, and the rich and famous have effed off, for lack of a better term, to live on Elysium, which is a kind of like the high society of the world have all moved to this kind of
tropical paradise in the sky in space basically, and the ones, you know, the working class, the blue collar, they're left behind to kind of rot in the world that's left behind. That's where we find Matt Damon, and he kind of goes on a bit of a crusade thereafter to get to Elysium to find a cure for this young girl who he's kind of tied to socially. But I won't say any more than that. But Sharp Koto, who was in District 9, is also in this movie, but this time playing very much the antagonist, a bad bastard basically. But I think he's great in everything that he's in. Thick South African accent, and is a fitting match for Matt Damon. Matt Damon's a little bit vanilla in this. I actually think Sharp Koto eclipses him and is the better performance in this. You've also got Jodie Foster and William Fichtner in kind of supporting cast, but Jodie Foster is kind of quite famously wooden in this and doesn't offer much up, but she plays the kind of the leader, if you like, or the diplomat that's in Elysium. But yeah, really worth a watch. I had it on the other night there just to kind of test my home cinema setup, because I'm kind of doing my room over just now and I'm making some changes, and this sounds fantastic and looks fantastic. The Blu-ray I had originally was a mastered in 4K Sony release with expanded colour in that, so it was kind of the first shift towards 4K. So obviously this had been filmed, I've not looked into it, but I think it may have been digitally, at resolutions well above 4K, no doubt. And Sony pioneered this kind of Blu-ray whereby, you know, you can, if you had the right equipment, you could kind of eke a little bit more out of the 4K master. It would kind of like upscale the 2K to 4K, or as close to 4K as it could, but you had to have a Sony TV and the Sony Blu-ray player. So it was a bit niche, but it was the kind of beginnings of the jump towards the 4K Blu-ray format, and that looked fantastic. And this looks every bit as good also with the HDR, just giving it that cut above, and the Dolby Atmos is awesome too. So yeah, if you like sci-fi dystopian and you like District 9, definitely check out Elysium. I know it's not the better of the two films, but worth a watch. You would never guess from the collection in this video that I'm a bit of a dystopian sci-fi fan. But next up is Escape from LA. So sticking on the theme of dystopian sci-fi and you know, corrupting, decaying Earth, we have this sequel which is kind of critically panned and it's definitely inferior to Escape from New York, which I have, John Carpenter's first outing. But I enjoyed this. I hadn't seen it, so this was actually a blind buy, and it was only $15.99 in the HMV big sale, whatever it was, big flash sale. It took ages to get me it right enough. Once I ordered it, I kept getting emails for weeks and weeks to say that they were struggling to source it, but eventually it came. You can get this just with the 4K disc. There's like a cheap release that at the time was more expensive. I think it was like 20 quid, but this was $14.99 for the collector's one, which has the Blu-ray, and you know, it's got the kind of art cards and it's got pull-out art and whatnot. Nice little set for $14.99. It's pretty bare bones. There's no real like special features on it from memory. It's just got DTS 5.1. There's no Atmos on it, but it did get, you know, the full 4K scan, and it comes in Dolby Vision also. So a nice offering technically, but I will say I wasn't all that impressed with it. It's got a kind of grungy, kind of budgety feel to it. This film, I enjoyed it. I like Kurt Russell and I like John Carpenter, so seeing the kind of collaboration again was good. The special effects have not aged well. There's a little cameo from Bruce Campbell in there, which is pretty cool, and I think Bruce Dern's in it as well, actually. But yeah, the surfing scene, which I've been warned about going in, you know, they were right to warn me, because that does look absolutely god-awful, but I think I've heard so much about it that when I seen it, I didn't think it was quite as bad as I was expecting. And I thought, bizarrely, like, fits with the tone of the film. You can kind of see the little, it doesn't look as good as that, I can tell you anyway. It makes it look better on the front of the box. But yeah, I enjoyed it. If you're a Kurt Russell fan and John Carpenter fan, it's definitely worth checking out. And I just wanted to have them both, but I'm glad I've got it, and I can see myself watching it again. So that's Escape from LA. Next up, shock horror, The Running Man. So this is a film I had fond memories of growing up as a kid. But I must say, see, when I watched it again, I was a wee bit underwhelmed. It's one of those ones where your memory of it is definitely better than the reality. I still enjoyed it, and it's got a short runtime. It's like an hour and 40 minutes or something, but I don't think it's Arnie's best film by any means. This was released in Germany. I can't remember who the label was, but it's been available in 4K for ages, but it's only fairly recently became available in the UK. So this was a release from Paramount Pictures, obviously, and it's very bare bones. Again, I got this in a sale, and I'm glad I did, because it was 30 quid initially. I think it might even have been 35 when the pre-orders went up. It's the 35th anniversary, as you can see there, first time in 4K, which isn't necessarily true. But yeah, you only get the 4K disc, which is what Paramount seem to be doing recently. But I think for a steelbook version, you should be getting the Blu-ray as well, and maybe some and other stuff other than just the steelbook. But the steelbook design is nice, and that's what drew me to it. I like that you get this kind of shiny, glossy cover just to protect it a little bit, and then the steelbook underneath is a kind of pop-arty, nice design. So quite pleased with it, but as you can see, just a very basic 4K disc, no disc art and no Blu-ray, and there's absolutely nothing on it, no special features or anything. HDR is in Dolby Vision, so similar to Escape from LA, it's Dolby Vision, but you don't get Dolby Atmos, it's just the old track, the old DTS 5.1 I believe. Unremarkable transfer, probably the best it's ever looked. It's, you know, it's an old 80s film. It wouldn't have had the most expensive budget, I would imagine. But if you're an Arnie fan, it's a must. But yeah, get this on a sale, especially if you're getting the steelbook. I don't think it's worth the 30 quid. I got it for 20, I think it was. It was a birthday present from my brother on a sale at XIII. I think that's a fairer price for it. And then last up on the 4K front, finally getting away from dystopian sci-fi. Although, if you've seen the most recent edition, it's bordering on sci-fi, it's so ridiculous. But it's John Wick, chapters 1 and 2. So I've had these movies on Blu-ray for ages, and then by the time I became 4K capable, that was when the third one came out. So you can see just over my shoulder I had just the kind of regular slipcase version of the third one. But it bugged me that I just had the Blu-rays, and I love these films. I rewatch them a lot, purely just for the action and the sound that I like kind of enjoying my home theatre with the gunshot and the sound of these amazing movies. But because I was upgrading, I didn't want to pay over the odds for them. And eventually this went down to $19.99, probably just to cash in on the new one coming out at HMV. And I managed to get the 20% off Mention Me discount, which brought it down to, I think, $16.99. So I thought $16.99, £17 for these films. What's that? £8.50 or something like that per movie. I was like, yep, it's hit the right price for me. So I've not actually watched them yet. I put John Wick 4 on my OLED, but it doesn't have the home theatre, so I couldn't listen to the Atmos. But the Atmos was on the original Blu-ray. It was chapter 2 that for some reason on Blu-ray they didn't put the Atmos on. So looking forward to watching especially chapter 2 of the Atmos with my kind of revised Atmos setup. So I'll be saving that for when I've got it fully up and running. But yeah, what I need to say about John Wick, other than they're all amazing, and they just keep getting better. It's certainly, as far as the action choreography goes, if you've not seen the John Wick films, what you're doing, or you're living under a rock or something, especially if you like action, if you like Keanu Reeves, you need to get on these, and I would recommend getting them in 4K. I really like the first one. I think it's got the best story, but admittedly, it's been eclipsed massively, action-wise, by, you know, the sequels. 2 is the kind of weakest, I think, story-wise. 3 has got a better storyline, a better narrative, but it's when the action starts to get mental and a bit over the top, because they need to keep outdoing themselves. But then I thought 4 was the best since the first. The story, the stakes is there, the supporting characters, you know, Donnie Yen coming in, Scott Adkins and stuff, brilliant. Really enjoyed chapter 4. I seen it in my local, and I kind of wish I'd seen it in IMAX now, but I'll definitely be getting John Wick 4 when it comes out on 4K, and no doubt be doing a review. But yeah, that's me now, got all 3 on 4K meantime. Sorry, I was struggling to get to the end of John Wick there. You can hear my voice going. I'm a bit unwell, as you can probably tell. But that just leaves the 3 Blu-rays now, and one of them's a steelbook, so I'll save that to last. And it kind of ties in to John Wick 4, so let's see if you can guess it. But first up is Apollo 13. Now, I've never actually seen this, believe it or not. It's one I've been wanting to see for ages, and I went into FOP in Glasgow, a rare trip to Glasgow with the wife, and I seen it going for £3.50. And it had this nice slip. I like these slips, these iconic moments, I think it is. Yeah, iconic moments in film history. I think they're quite nice. I don't know how many they've done, so I don't know if I'll collect them all. But they're going really cheap now, and it's usually just like the standard artwork underneath, but I just like it that it feels a bit more special when you have the kind of exclusive slip. But yeah, really enjoyed Apollo 13 and this Blu-ray. I'd never seen it, so I wasn't going to splash out on the 4K, and I'm quite happy. I'm probably not going to watch this a lot, so I'm quite happy just to have it on Blu-ray. But yeah, really good film. I didn't know anything about the Apollo 13 mission, so yeah, it was good getting an education. It's a Ron Howard film, you know what you're getting. Direction-wise, you've got Tom Hanks, Bill Paxton, Ed Harris, Kevin Bacon. Heavy-hitting Hollywood actors, so can thoroughly recommend it. And there's plenty of like good features on it, commentaries, kind of deep diving, speaking to the actual astronauts and whatnot about the Apollo 13 mission. So for £3.50, there's a lot of entertainment in this disc, and if it's still going in HMV or FOP, I would recommend you get down and snag it. Finally, a bit of brevity. So next up is The Mask, a 90s classic. Now I watched this to death in the 90s, burned out my old VHS, and I thought I had an amazing Jim Carrey impression, and I think my family used to hear me because I used to run about, shout smoking, and somebody stopped me and all that. I'm not going to embarrass myself now. But yeah, I thought it was amazing. I was probably crap looking back. But yeah, loved this film, had a massive impact on me. I used to collect all the toys and stuff, and I remember enjoying the cartoon spin-off that was on like Cartoon Network and all that. But yeah, The Mask is fantastic, and much like Running Man, I thought, am I going to enjoy this as much watching it again now? It's been about 20 years, easy, since I've seen this. But yeah, watched it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it from beginning to end. This needs a 4K update. The colours in this, the zaniness, there's some brilliant scenes, you know, the transformation stuff sounded quite nice. It's just the Dolby True HD track that's on this, and me being the clown that I am, misread it on the back and didn't see that, so I just thought it was the lossy stuff, so I just fired it on, came up seeing it was like the lossy 5.1 track, and I just listened to it, not realising that the second track was the True HD one, so schoolboy error on my part. But I have to say, it actually sounded still quite good, so I can only imagine what the Atmos would sound like if it got given that treatment, and I think HDR, especially in this movie, would look fantastic. This is an old transfer of The Mask, and it kind of shows perfectly watchable, but it's a bit soft in places, and it's lacking that kind of detail. I think a 4K transfer of this would be a big upgrade, and I think this has definitely got a bit of a cult following, so I think it'd be one that would sell really, really well. I see it's Warner Brothers that have it. I don't know why it's never come out in 4K. It's one that I could imagine the likes of Arrow or something might take on. I think they do a good job with it, especially when it's tied into like the comic books. I didn't even realise there's a good few special features on it that explain that the Mask was actually a Dark Horse comic book character. I didn't know that. It was obviously a lot darker, a lot more violent, and they kind of PG-friendlied it and made it a lot funnier, a lot more comedic, which I think obviously worked because it was a massive success. But yeah, this is prime Jim Carrey and the debut for Cameron Diaz, and I don't think she ever looked as good after The Mask. Beautiful woman, but peak Cameron Diaz in The Mask. So yeah, £3.99 for this. I got it in the HMV sale. So worth it. And last but not least, shout out to my wee bro. So sorry about all the crackling. So it's the Steelbook of The Warriors. Now I hadn't seen The Warriors. I know, shock horror. It's one of those films that, like, in my family it's always been well spoken of. My dad, my uncle, my brother, they all watched it. I don't know why it passed me by. I played the game, the Rockstar game, back in like the early 90s and everything, so I was always aware of its culture and impact, but just never ever sat down to watch it. Seen loads of lesser Walter Hill films over the years, never thought to sit down and watch probably his most famous. So my wee brother was coming over for a movie night, and he was like, I'm not coming round unless we're watching The Warriors. So I was like, okay. It was an intervention basically. So I went, do you know what, seeing as I've taken so long to get into it, mate, I'm going to go out and give it the full treatment. So I went into HMV, no discount, no nothing, into HMV, bought it for list price of 20 quid. Now I've seen reviews for this, people moaning about it. I think they expected a 4K by now, but they just got a new release on Blu-ray again, old master. But I'd never seen it, so I didn't care. And this is like the director's cut, where Walter Hill's went back and he's changed the transitions into like comic book like transitions, and that's because The Warriors was kind of based on old Greek mythology and whatnot, and he kind of wanted to do it like that as a kind of graphic novel, kind of akin to 300 I suppose, what Zack Snyder would go on to do. And that's kind of how it plays out, but nowhere near the production value of, obviously, 300. But I quite liked it. I understand people that, you know, have loved it for a long time wouldn't like that he's kind of tampered with it and stuff. My brother had obviously seen the older version. He didn't mind it. He quite liked it, but he's not a total cinephile. But I enjoyed it. I see why people maybe are upset. It's got an introduction from Walter Hill explaining it too, but other than that, I don't think there's much on it. But yeah, what a film The Warriors is. Really enjoyed it. Thoroughly enjoyed watching it with my brother. It's just like DTS 5.1, I think, that's on it, and I'm not sure what kind of scan it was. It doesn't look the best, but it looks good for a film from the late 70s. So iconic, you know, it's got a good pace, cracking soundtrack, really, really good. And I'm so glad he did make me watch it, because we then went and seen John Wick 4 together, and I don't want to spoil it for you, but there's a heavy, heavy nod to The Warriors. And because I'd seen The Warriors, it just made it all the more impactful, and I enjoyed it even more. So cheers, bro, for finally making me watch The Warriors in time for John Wick 4. But that's everything. As always, I like to know your thoughts, I like to know what you've been picking up, and I like to know what you think of what I've picked up. So please comment down below, and if you liked the video, just give it a wee like, and think about subscribing if you've hit us up for the first time, so you don't miss my content when it drops in the future. But that's it, I've been Andy, Electric Geek. Thanks for taking the time to watch the video, and hopefully I'll catch you in the next one.